she smiled. During an invasion. That's when they got scared. The Graxian Armada arrived on a Tuesday. Not that Earth's day-naming conventions meant anything to the 15-kilometer-long battleships that suddenly appeared in the skies above every major city on the planet. To the Graxians, this was the 347th rotation of the Grand Conquest, 59th cycle, era of the Magnificent Purge, a time historically favorable for adding primitive worlds to their ever-expanding empire. Commander Zhrix stood on the command deck of the flagship Inevitable Submission, his four eye stalks swiveling independently to monitor different holographic displays. His chitinous exoskeleton gleamed under the ship's blue lighting, polished to regulation perfection as required by Graxian Military Directive 7293B, subsection 12. Primitive defense systems neutralized, reported Subcommander Krelv, her voice modulator vibrating at the precise frequency denoting professional satisfaction. Electromagnetic pulse successful. Their global communications grid is offline. Excellent. Zhrix's mandibles clicked in the traditional rhythm of imminent victory. Deploy the Fear Squadrons. Standard Terror Protocol. Within minutes, thousands of smaller craft descended from the motherships. They hovered above the panicking masses, deploying the sound cannons that had broken the will of 37 species across 3 galactic arms. The noise, engineered specifically to target the fear centers of mammalian brains, caused millions of humans to drop to their knees, covering their ears in agony. Sir, I'm detecting anomalous behavior in Sector 7, North American continent, Krelv reported, her antenna twitching in confusion. One human appears unaffected by the sound cannons. Impossible. Commander Zhrix's exoskeleton stiffened. Display visual. The main view screen shifted to show a human female standing in the middle of an otherwise empty street. While others around her had fled or collapsed, she stood calmly, looking up at the Graxian scout ship with what appeared to be amusement. She was smiling. Increase amplitude, ordered Zhrix, his voice now carrying the harmonics of concern, a tone rarely used in the conquest fleet. The sound cannons doubled their output. Cars shattered, windows exploded. The asphalt cracked beneath the woman's feet, yet she continued to smile. Who is this creature? Zhrix demanded. Run biological scan. Human female, approximately 30 Earth rotations old, reported the science officer. Name, Alexandra Reeves. Occupation, radio technician. No unusual biological markers detected. Zhrix's eye stalks converged in concentration. Deploy a collection team. I want this human specimen brought aboard for immediate study. Within minutes, 4 Graxian soldiers surrounded Alexandra Reeves. They were imposing figures, each standing over 2 meters tall with segmented armor covering their insectoid forms, weapon appendages humming with energy. Human, the squad leader's translation module barked, you will submit to authority and accompany us for processing. Alexandra looked at each soldier in turn, then shrugged. Sure, why not? I was getting bored down here anyway. The casual response caused the soldiers to exchange confused glances. According to the Graxian Military Handbook, Section 439, Paragraph 7, all non-spacefaring species shall exhibit terror upon first contact with superior Graxian forces. This human's behavior was a clear violation of established protocol. Aboard the Inevitable Submission, Alexandra was escorted to the examination chamber. The stark metal room contained various scanning equipment and restraint apparatuses that had processed countless alien species before. Protocol dictated that she should be strapped to the central platform and subjected to immediate neural mapping. You have a lovely ship, Alexandra commented, looking around with interest. Great. Acoustics in here, mind if I whistle? Before anyone could respond, she began whistling a simple tune, something called Take Me Out to the Ball Game, according to the ship's cultural database. Cease that immediately, barked the chief examiner, scientist First Class Drelk. You will respond only to direct questioning. Alexandra stopped whistling and smiled again. Sorry. Nervous habit. That smile. It was beginning to disturb the Graxian crew. According to all established conquest protocols, Humans should be experiencing acute psychological distress at this stage of the invasion. Yet this specimen appeared comfortable. "Secure the subject," Zhrix ordered. 2 technicians approached with restraints, but Alexandra held up a hand. "Before you strap me down to that very intimidating table, can I ask a question?" The Graxians paused, momentarily confused by the request. "You may ask one question," Zhrix conceded, his voice modulator shifting to a tone of scientific curiosity. "Great. So, those sound cannons you're using, they operate on a frequency of about 19 kilohertz with amplitude modulation, right?" The examination chamber went silent. Even the background hum of the ship's system seemed to dim. How could you possibly know that?" Zhrix's mandibles clacked rapidly, the Graxian equivalent of a stammer. Alexandra shrugged. "I told you, I'm a radio technician. I work with frequencies all day, and I have high-frequency hearing loss in that exact range from an accident a few years back. Can't hear a thing between 18 and 21 kilohertz, which apparently is right where your fear sound sits." Commander Zhrix, who had been observing from behind a transparent partition, immediately entered the chamber. This was unprecedented, a biological immunity to their primary psychological weapon. "You will explain your lack of fear," Zhrix demanded, towering over Alexandra. She looked up at him, still with that unsettling smile. "Well, when you can't hear the scary noise, and you've seen enough sci-fi movies to recognize an alien invasion when you see one, I don't know, it just seemed interesting rather than terrifying." Zhrix's eye stalks quivered with agitation. "Science Officer Zhrix, adjust the sound cannons, find a frequency this human can hear." "It would require reprogramming the entire fleet, Commander," Zhrix replied. "And we have no guarantee that other humans don't share this immunity." "Then we proceed to secondary invasion protocols," Zhrix decided. "Prepare the neural probes." Alexandra was finally secured to the examination table, though she offered no resistance. In fact, she kept asking questions about the technology around her with annoying persistence. The Graxian technicians, trained to expect screaming or begging, found her curiosity deeply unsettling. "This neural mapping device is fascinating," she commented as they positioned the scanner above her head. "Does it work through direct electrical stimulation or some kind of quantum entanglement?" "Silence," Zhrix commanded. "The procedure requires your complete mental submission." "Oh, sorry," Alexandra replied, not sounding sorry at all. "I'll try to clear my mind. Though I should warn you, I've been told I have a particularly noisy brain." The scanner activated with a low hum. Immediately, the monitoring screens flickered with unusual patterns. "This can't be right," muttered Zhrix, adjusting controls frantically. "The human's neural pathways are singing?" Indeed, the translation of Alexandra's brainwaves through the Graxian system produced something akin to music. The same tune she had been whistling earlier, now playing directly from her thoughts. "Take me out to the ball game. Take me out." To the crowd, the ship's speakers unexpectedly broadcasted the song as the computer attempted to process the unusual input. "Shut it down," Zhrix ordered. But the damage was done. Throughout the ship, confused Graxians paused in their duties. According to the Grand Military Codex, Section 832A, subsection 14, no enemy consciousness shall influence Graxian systems. Yet here was a human melody playing throughout the flagship. "Commander," Sub-Commander Krelv reported urgently from the bridge. "We're receiving reports of similar anomalies across the fleet. Sound cannons are malfunctioning. Some are playing Earth music." Alexandra's smile widened. "Funny thing about radio waves and frequencies, sometimes they have unexpected harmonics." Zhrix's exoskeleton vibrated with rage. "What have you done, human?" "Me? Nothing much," Alexandra replied. "But you should know that before I worked in radio, I spent 5 years in acoustical engineering. Your sound cannons create a carrier, wave that's perfect for piggybacking other frequencies. And when your neural scanner tried to read my mind while I was thinking about music, it created a feedback loop," Zhrix realized, his scientific curiosity momentarily overriding his alarm. The scanner transmitted your mental patterns to our central systems, which then sent them to your sound cannons, yes, Alexandra finished, which are now broadcasting "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" instead of your fear frequency. Honestly, I didn't know if it would work, but worth a shot, right? Throughout the cities of Earth, the terrifying sound cannons were now playing cheerful baseball music. Confused humans were emerging from hiding, looking up at the alien ships with bewilderment rather than terror. Commander Zhrix was facing a crisis unprecedented in Graxian military history. The Fear Squadron, cornerstone of their conquest strategy, had been neutralized by a single human with a tune stuck in her head. "Recalibrate all systems," Zhrix ordered, "and place this human in isolation immediately." Alexandra was transferred to a containment cell, a small, featureless room with a single bench and an energy field for a door. Standard procedure for problematic specimens awaiting detailed dissection. But even in isolation, Alexandra continued to smile. She paced the small cell, occasionally tapping rhythms against the wall or humming to herself. Through the monitoring systems, the Graxians watched her with growing unease. "Her behavior defies all predictive models," reported behavioral analyst Zhrix. "According to our studies of human psychology, she should be exhibiting signs of distress, claustrophobia, or at minimum, concern for her future." "Perhaps the specimen is defective," suggested Krelv. "We should collect more humans for comparison." Meanwhile, aboard the bridge of the inevitable submission, chaos was spreading. The sound cannons weren't the only systems affected by Alexandra's musical intrusion. The ship's communication network had begun experiencing unusual fluctuations. Randomly selected Earth broadcasts were being intercepted and played through internal channels. "And that's a home run for the Yankees," blared suddenly through the command deck, causing several Graxians to extend their threat displays in surprise. "What is happening to my ship?" Zhrix demanded. "Unknown, Commander," replied the communications officer. "It appears our systems are curious about Earth transmissions." This was absurd. Graxian technology didn't get curious. It followed programming. It obeyed commands. It conquered worlds with mechanical precision. Zhrix made a decision. "Bring the human to me, now." Alexandra was escorted to the bridge by 6 armed guards, twice the standard security protocol. She walked with casual interest, looking around at the ship's interior with the air of a tourist rather than a prisoner. "Your ship's design is fascinating," she commented to one of the guards. "The way you use bioluminescent lighting integrated with the mechanical systems, it's really elegant." The guard's mandibles twitched uncomfortably. Compliments from inferior species were not covered in the training manual. Upon reaching the bridge, Alexandra let out a low whistle of appreciation at the vast command center with its sweeping views of Earth below. "Now this is what I call a corner office with a view." Commander Zhrix approached, his tall form looming over her. "Human. Alexandra Reeves. You have interfered with Graxian military operations. This is an act of war." "Is it?" she asked, genuinely curious. "I thought you were the ones who parked your ships over our cities and started blasting us with scary noises." That seemed like the act of war to me. Several bridge officers turned to observe this exchange. The human's logic was uncomfortably sound. "We are the Graxian Empire," Zhrix stated, his voice modulator emphasizing each syllable for maximum intimidation. "We have conquered 37 species across 9 solar systems. Your planet is being assimilated into our domain. Resistance is—" "Let me guess," Alexandra interrupted. "Futile, pointless, inadvisable. You military types really need some new material." A ripple of discomfort passed through the bridge crew. Interrupting a Graxian commander was simply not done, not even by other Graxians, let alone inferior species. "Your insolence will not save your world," Zhrix continued, though his tone carried a new harmonic, one indicating slight uncertainty. "Our forces have disabled your military capabilities. Your governments are in disarray. Your population is at our mercy." Alexandra nodded thoughtfully. "All true. And yet, here I am, having a conversation with the commander of the invasion fleet instead of being, I don't know, processed into food paste or whatever it is you usually do with conquered species. We do not convert species to nutritional supplements, corrected Science Officer Zhrix, sounding mildly offended. That would be barbaric. We simply harvest their resources and incorporate useful individuals into our labor force. Oh, well, that's much better, Alexandra replied dryly. Look, I have a question if you don't mind. Why Earth? What made our little blue planet worth the trip? The question caught Zhrix off guard. According to the Graxian conquest manual, subjugated species typically asked about their fate, begged for mercy, or attempted futile negotiations. They didn't ask about strategic objectives. Earth contains valuable mineral resources and a compatible atmospheric composition for Graxian colonization, Zhrix found himself explaining. Additionally, human biological specimens show potential for medical research applications. So we're lab rats sitting on useful dirt, Alexandra summarized. Charming. And the whole sound cannon fear thing, that standard procedure. The psychological submission protocol has been refined over 12 generations of conquest, Krelv interjected, a note of pride in her voice modulation. It typically reduces resistance by 94.3%, minimizing the need for physical destruction. Alexandra's eyebrows raised. That's actually pretty clever. Frighten everyone into submission rather than blowing everything up. Preserves the resources you're after. Precisely, agreed Zhrix, before catching himself. The Graxian science officer realized he was engaging in casual conversation with a conquest subject, a clear violation of protocol. Enough! Zhrix's voice boomed across the bridge. This human is manipulating us through social engineering techniques. Return her to isolation and prepare for Phase 2 of the invasion. As the guards moved to seize Alexandra, a strange alarm sounded throughout the bridge. The main view screen switched to show multiple Graxian ships across the planet, all of them surrounded by unusual energy patterns. Report, demanded Zhrix. Commander, our ships are experiencing widespread system anomalies, reported the tactical officer. The neural networks controlling our weapon systems have become infected. Infected? With what? With music, sir. Earth music. It's spreading through all communication channels. Alexandra's smile grew wider. Ah, that would be the emergency broadcast system kicking in. When your EMP knocked out our regular communications, our backup systems activated. And those old emergency transmitters, they operate on frequencies very similar to your neural networks. The bridge fell silent as the implications became clear. You planned this, Zhrix stated, his eye stalks focusing intensely on Alexandra. She shook her head. Not exactly. I noticed the frequency pattern when your sound cannons first deployed. The rest was, improvisation. A talent humans are particularly good at, by the way. Throughout the Graxian fleet, confusion was spreading. Ship systems were playing Earth music and broadcasting human entertainment. Fear squadrons found their sound cannons transmitting cooking shows and soap operas instead of terror frequencies. Sir, reported a communications officer, the humans are responding unusually to our malfunctioning equipment. On the view screen, footage showed crowds of people in New York, gathering beneath a Graxian ship that was now inadvertently broadcasting a popular dance music station. Some humans had actually begun dancing. In London, a ship's malfunctioning holographic projector was displaying scenes from Earth historical documentaries, attracting curious onlookers who seemed to be treating the invasion as some sort of interactive exhibition. They're not afraid, Krelv observed, her voice containing harmonics of both confusion and fascination. Why aren't they afraid? Alexandra leaned against a console, looking remarkably comfortable for a captive on an alien warship. Here's the thing about humans, we adapt quickly. That initial fear response, it doesn't last. Give us 5 minutes to realize we're not immediately dead and curiosity takes over. Curiosity is a survival disadvantage, stated Zhrix firmly. It leads to unnecessary risk. And yet, Alexandra countered, it's how we went from banging rocks together to building satellites in just a few thousand years. We're an aggressively curious species. As if to prove her point, the view screen shifted to show scenes from Sydney, where humans were attempting to communicate with a Graxian scout ship by holding up signs with greetings and mathematical equations. In Rio de Janeiro, someone had set up speakers beneath a hovering Graxian vessel and was playing music, apparently attempting to establish cultural exchange. "This is unprecedented," muttered Krelv. "No species has ever responded to invasion with hospitality." "Commander." Zhrix's exoskeleton vibrated with stress harmonics. The Graxian invasion protocol had no contingency for this scenario. Fear was supposed to lead to submission. Submission would lead to orderly conquest. But without fear, "We will proceed with physical enforcement," Zhrix decided. "Deploy ground troops. Standard subjugation pattern." "Sir," the tactical officer responded hesitantly. "Troop deployment may be problematic. Our neural helmets are affected by the same system anomalies. Soldiers are reporting that their tactical displays are showing Earth entertainment content. One of the battalions is receiving something called cat videos," added another officer. "They're watching them instead of deploying." Alexandra tried, not very successfully, to suppress a laugh. Zhrix swiveled all four eye stalks toward her. "You find our military difficulties amusing, human?" "A little bit, yeah," she admitted. "You come all this way with your advanced technology and scary insect soldiers, and you get defeated by our emergency broadcast system and videos of kittens. It's objectively funny. What happened next shocked everyone on the bridge, including Alexandra herself." Commander Zhrix's mandibles parted, and a series of clicking sounds emerged, the Graxian equivalent of laughter. It was brief and immediately suppressed, but unmistakable. The bridge crew froze in astonishment. According to Graxian military, Regulation 42J, commanding officers were forbidden from displaying humor during active conquest operations. "Commander?" Krelv ventured cautiously. Zhrix's exoskeleton stiffened back to proper military posture. "A momentary system malfunction in my vocal modulator. Disregard." But Alexandra had seen it. "You thought it was funny too. You actually have a sense of humor under all that chitinous military discipline." "Graxians do not have humor," Zhrix stated firmly. "We have appreciation for statistical improbabilities, which occasionally manifests as rhythmic mandibular movement." "Right," Alexandra nodded, still smiling. "Statistical improbabilities, like an invasion force being stopped by cat videos." Another brief click escaped Zhrix before he could suppress it. Several junior officers quickly busied themselves with their consoles, pretending not to notice this shocking breach of protocol. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. Not only were the invasion forces unable to function properly due to system malfunctions, but now command discipline was being compromised by unauthorized humor. "We must adapt our strategy," Zhrix announced, regaining his composure. "If psychological submission is ineffective, we will implement—" He was interrupted by another alarm, this one more urgent than before. "Commander, we're detecting approaching vessels," reported the tactical officer. "Multiple craft leaving Earth's surface." The view screen shifted to show dozens of small human aircraft rising from various points around the globe. They weren't military vehicles, but rather civilian aircraft, news helicopters, private planes, even hot air balloons. "They're approaching our ships," continued the tactical officer, mandibles clicking in confusion. "Not attacking, just approaching. Some appear to be broadcasting greetings." "They're curious about you," Alexandra explained. "I told you. Give humans 5 minutes to get over the initial shock, and we want to know everything about the weird new thing." "We are not a weird new thing," Zhrix stated indignantly. "We are the Graxian Empire, conquerors of 37 species across 9 solar systems. Yes, you mentioned that." Alexandra finished for him. "But to us, you're the most interesting thing to happen to Earth since the internet. And trust me, we're going to want selfies." "Selfies?" queried Zhrix. "Self-portrait images," explained the cultural database automatically. a human custom of documenting one's presence at significant events or locations. They want to take commemorative images with our conquest fleet? Krell's voice modulator couldn't quite capture the appropriate tone of disbelief. Welcome to humanity, Alexandra said with a shrug. We document everything. By tomorrow you'll be a meme. The Graxian command structure was facing total strategic collapse. Their primary psychological weapon had been neutralized. Their systems were compromised. And now, instead of cowering in fear, the conquest subjects were treating the invasion as a cultural event worthy of documentation and study. In the midst of this unprecedented crisis, Alexandra decided to push her advantage. You know, there's a way out of this that doesn't involve either side losing face. Zhrix's eye stalk swiveled toward her. Explain. Call it a cultural exchange, instead of an invasion, she suggested. Say you came to establish diplomatic relations and the sound cannons were just a communication error. We'll pretend to believe you. You'll pretend it was your plan all along and everyone saves face. The bridge fell silent as the Graxians processed this suggestion. According to the Grand Military Codex, Section 991C, in the event of insurmountable tactical obstacles, strategic reframing is permissible to preserve imperial resources. A cultural exchange, Zhrix repeated slowly, testing the concept. Not a conquest, but a first contact scenario. Exactly, Alexandra nodded. You get to learn about Earth, maybe establish trade agreements for those minerals you want, and nobody has to be conquered or exterminated. We get to learn about advanced alien technology and everybody wins. Drelk's analytical mind quickly assessed the proposition. Commander, this alternative would allow us to gather valuable data about human society while preserving our military resources, and the Imperial Directive does permit exploration missions alongside conquest operations. It is unorthodox, Zhrix admitted. His eye stalks swiveled to the view screen, where more and more human aircraft were approaching the Graxian ships, some now holding signs with greetings or mathematical formulas. Unorthodox is our specialty, Alexandra said. And honestly, we're much more valuable to you as trading partners than as conquered subjects. You won't believe the things we can do. With limited technology and unlimited creativity. To demonstrate her point, she gestured to one of the screens showing a human teenager in Tokyo who had somehow hacked into a Graxian scout ship's external lighting system and was making it flash in patterns synchronized to music. How did they access that system? Drelk asked, mandibles clicking in scientific fascination. It should be impossible with their technology level. Like I said, creativity. We find ways to make things work that nobody else would think of. Imagine what we could do as allies instead of subjects. Commander Zhrix faced the most difficult decision of his military career. The Graxian conquest protocol had no contingency for converting an invasion into a diplomatic mission. Yet the alternative, attempting to force submission on a species that responded to fear with curiosity, seemed increasingly impractical. Sub-Commander Krell, what is your assessment? Zhrix asked, following the chain of command as required, by regulation. Krell's antenna twitched thoughtfully. The human's proposal has strategic merit, Commander. A cultural exchange would allow us to withdraw without acknowledging defeat, while still achieving our resource objectives through potential trade agreements. And it would make for a much more interesting report to your superiors than we got. Defeated by cat videos, Alexandra added helpfully. That did it. Another click of Graxian laughter escaped Zhrix, and this time he didn't try to suppress it. Several other bridge officers joined in with their own mandibular clicking. Very well, Zhrix decided. We will reframe this operation as a cultural exchange mission. Deactivate remaining sound cannons, recall ground forces, prepare diplomatic protocols. Throughout the Graxian fleet, the order spread. Sound cannons powered down. Scout ships pulled back to less threatening positions. The invasion, now officially redesignated as First Contact Mission 347, shifted into its new phase. On Earth, confusion gave way to cautious optimism as the alien ships stopped their intimidation tactics and began broadcasting messages of greeting in multiple human languages, hastily compiled from the cultural database and emergency broadcast, system signals they'd absorbed. Alexandra Reeves, radio technician and accidental diplomat, found herself appointed as the first human liaison to the Graxian fleet. As the inevitable submission established a stable orbit and prepared to receive Earth's official representatives, she stood on the observation deck with Commander Zhrix, watching her home planet rotate slowly beneath them. "You know," she said, conversationally, "most invasion forces don't just change their minds because someone suggests it. You're more flexible than you appear." Zhrix's exoskeleton shifted in what might have been the Graxian equivalent of a shrug. "The Empire has endured for 12,000 cycles by adapting when necessary, and your species is unusually difficult to intimidate." "Only after the first 5 minutes," Alexandra corrected. "We were plenty scared at first, but then we get curious, and after that we start making jokes. It's how we cope." "Humor is a survival mechanism," Zhrix commented, joining them on the observation deck. The science officer had been eagerly preparing research protocols for studying human culture. "Fascinating. Most species we encounter use fear or aggression to navigate threats." "We do those too," Alexandra assured him. "But we also make memes and TikToks about our impending doom. It's a mixed strategy." "These TikToks, they are some form of temporal weapon?" asked Zhrix, still struggling with human terminology. Alexandra laughed. "Something like that. I'll show you later. Your cultural database is going to need a major update." As the first official diplomatic shuttles launched from Earth toward the Graxian fleet, Alexandra reflected on the absurdity of the situation. An alien invasion had been derailed by her hearing loss, some baseball music, and humanity's relentless curiosity. "Commander," she said suddenly, "what happens when you report back to your empire that you decided to establish diplomatic relations instead of conquering us?" Zhrix's eye stalks performed a complex movement that Alexandra couldn't interpret. "I will inform the Imperial Command that Earth presented unique tactical challenges requiring an innovative approach. It is technically not a violation of protocol." "But not exactly what they were expecting either," Alexandra guessed. "No," Zhrix admitted. "But the Empire values results. If we secure access to Earth's resources through trade rather than conquest, the method becomes secondary." Alexandra smiled that unsettling human smile again. "And if they ask why you changed the plan, will you tell them you found our cat videos tactically superior?" A series of clicks emanated from both Zhrix and Zhrix, Graxian laughter becoming less restrained with practice. "Perhaps," Zhrix replied. "I will simply explain that we encountered a species that smiles in the face of invasion. And that, Alexandra Reeves, is when we knew to be afraid." As the first human diplomatic shuttle docked with the inevitable submission, Alexandra couldn't help but wonder what other interstellar misunderstandings awaited. But for now, the invasion that became a cultural exchange was off to a promising start, all because she couldn't hear the scary noise and decided to smile instead. Somewhere in the vast archives of the Graxian Empire, Conquest Attempt 347 would be quietly reclassified as First Contact Protocol 1, and a new regulation would be added to the military codex. Upon encountering a species that responds to fear, with curiosity, proceed directly to diplomatic protocols. It wasn't the most glorious addition to the Graxian military legacy, but as Alexandra would later explain to Commander Zhrix over what humans called coffee and Graxians called toxic stimulant beverage, sometimes the best victories come from not fighting at all. And sometimes a smile is the most disarming weapon of all.